Okay, so tonight we'd like to talk a little bit about the Section 106 process for the Olehua Water System Improvements Project. This, of course, is a very large project that spans a large area of the central portion of Molokai, which is shown on your screen there. So tonight's meeting, of course, Andrew, mahalo for the introductions of the project team. And again, thank you all for joining us for tonight's meeting. We'll start out with an overview of the agenda, of course, and meeting protocols. This is a short PowerPoint that I'll be running through tonight. And at the end, there'll be an opportunity for discussion. So we'd like to open it up for discussion at that time. If you think of any questions as I'm going through the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat box. We'll keep that open for everybody to utilize if they'd like to as well. So we're going to start out with a little bit of project background. I know most of you are very familiar with this project, and really to focus in on the previous Section 106 consultation and community engagement effort. And then we'll talk a little bit about the purpose of the reopening of the Section 106 consultation for this project in particular, which really revolves around the expansion of the area of potential effect, or the APE, also known as the project area, in site areas 2, 3, and 5. And we'll talk about those areas in particular. And then, as I mentioned, we'll open it up for discussion. So the project background, Andrew, did you want to give a little bit of the background? You or Stuart from DHHL?
I think Stuart is most familiar with the project background.
Yeah, thank you so much. Aloha, everyone. So this Olehua water project, improvement project started, I think in the planning something like 10 years ago. And so the project is currently divided into seven different sites, and which is shown on the map. It involves improvements to the water line, improvements to various storage tanks, and also construction of a new base yard building in Site 7, where the current base yard is located. And you see here that the objectives of the meeting was to improve the reliability and functionality, addresses water pressure in certain areas, addresses fire protection deficiencies, improves the overall water safety system and security. And the last part about reducing energy costs, you know, one of the portions of the project was to look at installation of a solar photovoltaic field. We've had some issues with that, and so we've concentrated on the water line improvements, the water tank improvements, and we're starting the construction of the base yard. So the project is roughly $32 million, and it's divided into these funding sources. So DHHL has had to use our trust funds and some CIP funds to encumber the contract, and then we are approaching the reimbursement through the USDA grant. So that's a really good point to be at in this project. We're still looking at about a year to finish all of the construction. So that is the a quick summary of where we're at right now. The slide does show how the what we call packages are broken into, and so we can get into a little bit more detail on that later. Unfortunately, we don't have our CM from SSFM on this call today. That's where I get most of my detailed information. So we can do follow-up if there are any questions, technical questions later. So thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Mara.
Mahalo, Stuart. So in terms of this project, as Stuart mentioned, it started many years ago, and actually it started over a decade ago in 2007 when DHHL's regional planning process officially began. In 2011 to 2012, pre-assessment consultation letters were sent out to a number of consulting parties. And in 2015, additional actions were added. Additional pre-assessment consultation letters were sent out, and the Section 106 consultation process was initiated with that letter in 2015. A number of meetings were held, and we're only showing those that directly related to Section 106. There was a meeting with the DHHL Homestead Association leadership on December 1st of 2011, including a follow-up teleconference that was held about a week later on December 9th in 2011. And then in 2015, on October 1st, there was an additional meeting. And following that meeting, all Native Hawaiian organizations listed on the Department of Interior's September 2015 Native Hawaiian organization list were provided an opportunity to schedule one-on-one meetings on Molokai and the following 2 days on October 1st and 2nd, and no requests were made at that time. Now, the reason that we are reopening the Section 106 consultation process is that following the completion of the environmental assessment in 2016 for this project and the acceptance of the AIS report and mitigation plans, which happened in 2020, additional engineering and design work was done. And as part of that additional work, some additional modifications and repairs to the water system were made in 3 areas. And those areas are shown here. They're shown in blue. And so what we call those is expansion areas. That is the area of potential effect, or the original project area in site areas 2, 3, and 5 was expanded. And it was expanded when that additional design and engineering work was done as the final construction plans were being developed for the project. So if we zoom in and look at these 3 areas, we'll start in site area 2. That of course is in Kalamaula. And this is an area where a 12-inch water line, which is just shy of 2,000 feet long, was aligned along an existing dirt road. So instead of running the line along a new area that didn't have an existing dirt road, the team decided to run it along an existing dirt road and make some improvements there as well. Our team completed an archaeological field inspection on January 21st, 2021, and did not identify any surface archaeological features or cultural materials. Trenching was subsequently monitored by our team at Pacific Legacy in January and February of 2021, and there were no findings during trenching for this new water line. In site area 3, which is it's a 6-inch transmission main, that connects Ka'uluvai to Ho'olehua. In this area, the team chose to run the line in the same location as the previous water line. Now, this area was actually surveyed during the Archaeological Inventory Survey, or AIS, that was conducted by our team at Pacific Legacy. And that's the reference to the report is McIntosh et al. 2020. In this area, an archaeological field inspection was also completed by our team on March 21st of 2021. No surface archaeological features or cultural materials were observed in this instance either. The trenching was monitored by our team, and that occurred in April to July of 2021. There were no findings in these areas of expansion in this area. In site area 5, which is an 8-inch water line that's about 3,000 feet long, running along Pu'ukapele Avenue between Hanakea Avenue and Nene Hanaupo Avenue in Ho'olehua. In this area, an archaeological field inspection by our archaeologists was conducted on May 17th of 2021. There were no surface archaeological features or cultural materials observed. The trenching was monitored in June 2021 by our full-time monitors who are on site. And again, there were no findings. So those are the three areas of expansion, again, that really were the trigger to reopen the Section 106 consultation process. Following the archaeological field inspections that were conducted in these three areas, as well as the observations during trenching, we determined that the determination of effect for the project, including these areas of expansion, remains unchanged. That is, it has a determination of effect of no historic properties affected. So this just outlines that the undertaking or the project does not affect any historic buildings or structures evaluated as eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. The undertaking does not affect any known subsurface archaeological resources evaluated as eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. An archaeological monitoring plan has been prepared and accepted by the State Historic Preservation Division that outlines the role and responsibilities of the archaeological monitor. And just to reiterate, we have had an archaeological monitor on site for 100% of the ground disturbing activities associated with this project. All ground disturbing activities associated, of course, being archaeological monitored, and if encountered, all cultural resources shall be documented as appropriate by the monitor, and treatment of the findings, if any, shall proceed in accordance with the accepted AMP. Now, as the DHHL slides early on showed, the project is about 57%. I think it's a little bit more. The team is continuing to work on this project in the field. And we've actually gotten to work on putting together the archaeological monitoring report as well. So that will be forthcoming upon the completion of the project. So in terms of a discussion, we wanted to hear from everybody tonight. If you have any mana'o to share regarding the areas of expansion that are shown on the slide, or any comments on the findings and mitigation measures.
Yes.
Mara, we have, or Stuart too, we have some comments in the, or questions in the chat.
Okay.
One is from Gayla. The question is, Kalama-ua Mauka water line is still weak. Did anyone talk to the residents over there? It got worse. So Stuart, is there, what are the, how will the proposed improvements impact Kalama-ua Mauka, if any, if there is any impact?
I would have to look into that and exactly where the issues are. And this is, did I hear correctly? It's still a pressure issue in Kalama-ua Mauka?
Yes.
Okay. I can guess, let's see. Now let me try to find it in the, I can't find my, where's the chat? Okay, sorry, I got it now. Okay. We can do a follow-up with our CM and contractor on that and look at exactly where the issue is, and then try to see what the remediation is or mitigation is for that area. So is there a particular?
Yeah, you cannot wash clothes or take a bath or water your yard. You gotta do either one or the other because the pressure is so weak. It's not giving you the right amount of water.
Okay, what lot number is this? All of the lots there, or but if you can give me your lot
Mine's
number.
Is 6.
Lot
My
number
lot
6.
Is 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
All.
It goes all the
Okay.
way to the top because my uncle lives there, and he's been tracking it too, and his water is weak too. Say we get on fire, everybody gonna run their water. Not gonna get water to put the fire out, which we had one several years ago.
right? I'm on lot 15 on the top of Kalamaula Mauka, and we know more water either. The pressure, like if we cannot do, yeah, exactly what Gila said, same thing. We cannot shower and run the washer all at once because no more any pressure.
So, Lehua and Gayla, how long has been this going on?
From day one.
Yeah.
When you say day one, like when?
Before when they changed the water system in Kalamaula, it gotten worse. It's more
Right.
weak now.
And of course, as more homes are being built, it's getting weaker and weaker, yeah.
Okay, we will definitely look into that. I will contact our the Molokai District Office as well as the contractor and our CM to find out what the situation is there and how it can be improved.
Mahalo.
Okay, I'm gonna go through the chat first, and then I'll come back to Okele. I see your hand up, so I'll come back to you after we get through the chat. So next one is from Sybil. Is the archaeological monitor from Molokai, will that report be provided to our Homestead Beneficiary Association? So I guess Mara, if you can answer the first question.
Yeah, sure. The archaeologist is from Molokai. Her name is Kahulu Peltier. So she's been on site full time. And then in instances where two different teams are working simultaneously, our archaeologists have come over from Oahu on occasion as well to help out.
Okay, and then I guess with regards to the second question, yes, we can make that report available to those who are interested in reviewing the report.
Yes.
Okay, from Malia, Site 3, how long is proposed new 6-inch pipe for expansion?
So they're replacing, sorry, I guess DHHL team, you can answer this one, but either way. So it's about 3,000 linear feet, and they're replacing a 6-inch line that's made from a material that contains asbestos. And so they are replacing the whole line. Is that correct, Stuart?
That is correct. Yeah, it's ductile iron pipe. So yeah, AC that asbestos concrete pipe is basically obsolete. It's left in place so that it doesn't fragment and cause a hazard. I believe there are also some topography issues, so the line had to be rerouted.
Okay. Let's see, there was a comment in the chat from Sybil, it affects all, and I believe she is referring to the water pressure in Kalamaua. It affects all lots.
Okay. We'll take a look at that.
Okay. And then from Alkele, there is a major issue on water. Can you please look at the atmospheric water community machines that make water out of air to solve this issue as an option? We can definitely take a look at that. I know that there, in my experience, there was a homesteader on Maui in up country that has a machine on her property. So we can, looking at alternative technologies is always something that we want to take a look at. One, it might be more cost effective, and two, if it is more cost effective, then it is an option for us to help accelerate the way in which we can fulfill our mission. So yeah, it's something we can take a look at. Just more comments. One from Malia, acknowledging that the archaeologist is from Molokai. um, from Sybil, Stuart, can you please reassess so that our beneficiaries can fix those water pressure in Kalamaua, Mauka?
Yeah, absolutely.
From Iolani, from Shipti, mahalo Iolani for joining us this evening. His question is, the overall project that's remaining, are there expansion areas involved? And can you provide a brief update on the current monitoring and if identified historic properties have been identified thus far? I guess that one's for you, Mara.
Sure, I'd be happy to speak to that. Mahalo, Iolani, for your question. So the overall project that's remaining actually does not involve any of the expansion areas. All of those areas have been monitored and are completed. The areas that remain are namely this little polygon here. So that's known as Site Area 7, I believe, and also Site Area 1, which is the maintenance building. And so some major improvements are proposed to the maintenance building in Ho'olehua. I know that the team was waiting on some materials, and so some of that work has been on hold for the time being. In terms of a brief update on the current monitoring, no identified historic properties have been identified. Our team has identified a number of isolated historic artifacts, including glass bottles, for example, a discoidal hammerstone that was on the surface in Site Area 3, and then as well as some of the, I can never remember what they're called, but you know, the glass, glass pieces that go on the top of electrical lines. I can't remember their name. Somebody help me. Conductors, maybe. So some of those, especially in Site Area 2, were identified, as well as historic bottles. We've also had some faunal materials, so that is animal bones, including, no surprise here, some deer bone, as well as some bird bone. Hi. So those are our findings so far, and of course we'd be happy to share the report when it's ready with everybody.
Another comment from Sybil regarding the water pressure in Kalamaua. So that for our beneficiaries, so DHHL can fix the necessary pressures for the subdivision. A question from Malia. Both Site 3 and Site 5 have 3,000 foot pipes changed. Stuart, I guess, can you clarify the undertaking in Sites 3 and Sites 5?
Okay, so Site 5 is pretty simple. It's just extension of improvements to that water line. And with Site 3, I don't know the exact linear footage we can get that, but it was basically to replace the asphalt concrete or asbestos concrete pipe, excuse me, and with ductile iron. And so basically trying to make the system more reliable and less subject to the fragmentation of the pipe, because it's really old there. So these are all intended to provide more reliability to the transmission there.
Okay, thank you, Stuart. There's a comment from Charity that the pressure in Ho'olehua is also weak. So Stuart, with the improvements to the Ho'olehua system, hopefully help to address water pressure on the system.
That is correct. I think there's still, you know, we have to look at all of the areas, because it may be affected by the pressure regulators. And so all of these have to be reset when the improvements are made. I want to also say that I think everyone got a notice that DHHL is in the process of working on the 3.5 million gallon tanks. And so one of the tanks is actually drained right now. Okay, and so that's putting a little bit more strain on the system. And so I believe we've also asked Kalamu'ula to conserve water because, again, we're working on the booster pumps up in uh, site one, and we still have one 3.5 million gallon tank that's down. So that could be affecting pressure actually in the entire system. Okay, so we're asking for conservation as best possible, but it sounds like the pressure was already bad from prior to the improvements being made. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
That's true.
Okay. Okay, we'll definitely take a look at that and work with our Molokai District Office as well as the contractor and our CM out there.
Okay, thank you.
Two questions from Malia. Is the site below Olehua tanks being changed? And could we receive a report on when various site ground was disturbed? So I guess the first question is for Stuart. Is the site below Olehua tanks being
The
changed?
water tanks, not to my knowledge. We are working on the two tanks right now, the 3.5 million gallon tanks. One is being drained. It has to be recoated. And then once that is done, that tank will be filled. And then the second 3.5 million gallon tank will be drained, and we will conduct the same work, basically to get in and to clean it out, recoat it. And there's also improvements being made to the outside because you can see that the concrete has some spalling, which means that the rebars are corroding, and so that needs to be remediated. So, but the site is not actually changing. All of the work is done within the area of potential effect, and that is in the site 4, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And then the second question, I guess, is more of a communication type of question in terms of how the department can notify when work is being done on various portions of the project, especially when work related to ground disturbance is being conducted. So is that something, Stuart, you folks can work with Cedric and ICRO on notification?
Yeah, we can put that onto our DHHL website, similar to like a public notice or a information bulletin. We've also had letters sent out. I think the latest one was on regarding the shutdown, the overnight shutdown, because of the draining of the water tank, and that we had to do some switching of the valves. I think that went off pretty much without a hitch, but there's always situations where the contractor needs to get out there and sometimes really at last minute kind of work because of issues with materials coming in, because of the the course of construction, etc. So appreciate that everyone bears with us, because it's not something that is that we do every day. And so there are issues that happen, unforeseen conditions that prompt us to take quick action to mitigate a problem. Most of the ground disturbing activities are completed. We're going to be working on Site 7, which is the base yard. But I can get together with our construction team, and if there are further ground disturbing activities, then we'll get out a notification of that.
Thank you, Stuart. Next question is from Kilia. Are there any plans that will take the work through personal homestead lots? I guess that is for Stuart.
Not to my knowledge. So what Mara has shown would be the locations of the proposed work in all of those areas outlined in red, as well as the circles. And some of these are PRV stations, some are hydrants, etc. But these are within roadways. So nothing that we see going through any homestead leases.
Okay. I guess Iolani was answering Mara's earlier question about what you call the glass pieces. So it's insulators. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you,
Okay.
Iolani.
Malia asks, where are the stone artifacts relocated to? So I will pass that to Mara.
Sure. Is that, where are they from or where are they now? Just clarification on that question. Relocated.
Malia, if you don't mind.
Sorry, yeah, delay. I was on the chat screen.
Okay.
Yeah, where are they now? Since they've been found, like what happens to them? Where do they go? Because I actually heard that others had been found by ground crews. So I'm just wondering what happens to them.
So there's only one stone artifact that's been identified, to my knowledge. I need to double check, but to my knowledge, there's only one, which is a discoidal hammerstone that was located in Site 3. And that it has been identified as a discoidal hammerstone. I know there was a lot of talk about it potentially being an ulu mica, but when we analyzed it, and our in-house lithic analyst or stone artifact specialist identified it as a hammerstone as opposed to an ulu mica. That is currently here in our laboratory here on the island of Oahu. And so all artifacts come here and then we fully document them so that they can be included in the archaeological monitoring report. And then they will be returned to DHHL. And DHHL, together with the State Historic Preservation Division, will determine an appropriate curation facility or repository for any artifacts that are identified during the project.
So they don't automatically come back to Molokai?
Well, that's a question to ask DHHL and to check in with them on their plans.
I think what I'm hearing from your question, Malia, is that there is a preference for the artifacts that are found to be returned to Molokai. So I think that is definitely the type of mana'o we want to hear tonight.
And if I may add, actually not to have them leave in the first place, if possible, since like there's archaeologists on island monitoring, it'd be excellent if as much monitoring or measurements or whatever needs to be taken as far as inventorying it, if it could take place on that. I think that would probably be important to me and probably others as well. Thank you.
And a follow-up question to that, would there be a location that's secure where we could leave them? Or conduct our analysis over on Molokai rather than needing to bring them back to the laboratory here on Oahu?
I think that's something that the community can discuss. Is that something that could be, you know, part of the consultation process? I mean, just my own manao would be people who, depending on what site it was found, you know, you may be the people who are residing or have resided in that area. Ideally not, I mean, personally, to not have it moved far away, but I'm not sure where they're taken to immediately on Molokai. That might be an option as far as doing the inventory part. I don't know if it's, you know, maybe it's a base yard or something like that. I don't know where the archaeology, DHHL archaeology office or site is on the island. But yeah, those are all things that would be excellent to work in unison with the community to figure out the best, you know, way to yeah, handle and yeah, take care of our food.
Yeah, mahalo. And I see, Kilia, you mentioned Pulama Lima and Kaipu Makani. I haven't spoken with Pulama lately about whether they have a center now. Can you all provide an update there?
Yeah, not yet. I used
Not
to work
yet.
for the Native Hawaiian Library, and as our libraries on Molokai, as well as her digital repository, we actually started a project that documents all Molokai artifacts. And so just the first stage was just the collections within the libraries, but that has been one of the goals, was to find a space. The Molokai Public Library could be perhaps a potential in partnership, but I would suggest Pulama, because she has the background of archaeology, definitely needs to, I know her goal was to get a space, an actual space. So something to at least discuss.
Yeah. Absolutely, mahalo. I'll reach out to her too. Yeah, Malia, go ahead.
Thank you. Very briefly, I think another concern or thought of mine would be that it would be good to keep them on Hawaiian homes land, you know, still Hawaiian lands if possible, in addition to not putting them far away. But I think that would be ideal. And I agree with working with our on-island Molokai archaeologists for sure. Thank you.
Mahalo for that.
Thank you.
I'm going back to the chat. So Cami had a question. When is the new water tank for Kalama'ula going to be constructed? The low water pressure was mentioned 10 plus years ago, first by Uncle Joe. Stuart, are you able to answer that one, or is it something you have to follow up?
That. Yeah, so that there's a new water tank being constructed up in Site 1, and that is to feed Kalama'ula. It's a steel tank, but the materials, I believe, have not yet been in. I'm checking with our CM to get a schedule, and then when I get that, I can provide that to the community.
Okay, thank you, Stuart.
Yeah.
There's a question from Cora. Is water being pumped up to feed homes, or is it gravity fed, flow to homes?
Yeah, it's a gravity feed system, both Kalama'ula and in olehua.
Okay, thanks,
Thank
Stuart.
you.
Next question from the Olehua Homestead Association. What about the history of Na'iva being sacred grounds that should be considered also besides physical artifacts? I'll toss that one to Mara.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I mentioned that no historic properties had been identified during the monitoring for this project, what I meant is that no historic properties have been newly identified or identified as this project has been ongoing. And so in terms of the reporting for the project will include a background section in the report that outlines previous archaeology and of course background information about the history and Na'iva being a very important center for Makahiki grounds. So that information is being considered, of course, and our monitors have been keeping a close eye for any physical remains or physical artifacts relating to those activities, and none were identified during the monitoring in that area. So yes, absolutely, that is being considered. But what I was referring to was specific to the monitoring activities and findings during construction of this project.
Okay, thank you, Mara. From Malia, how is the project addressing pipe fragmentation of asbestos pipes in the Olehua line? I guess that's a Stuart question.
Yeah, thank you. In all situations, it's best to leave AC pipes, what we call in situ, in the ground, and leave it, let it remain there without trying to remove it. And so that's the basic process we go through on that. Let's see. So I will, if that's not the case, we will inform everyone about that. But that is my understanding of the plans in the replacement of the AC pipes with ductile iron pipe.
Stuart, I was meaning as far as disturbing, but how you're saying that pipes in other areas, like what is that, site 3, had been changed, and site 5, I believe, had been changed in order to, forego or, avoid that fragmentation in the water delivery system. So I'm wondering, in that same way, how has the olehua pipes been addressed?
I believe it's being addressed in a similar manner. That if it is replaced, then it is the pipes are the asbestos concrete pipe is left in the ground. It is not removed.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. I got that part. I was wondering about providing new pipes and that would go around and not have to utilize those pipes anymore.
That is yes. That is correct.
But that it is being changed out, or that it's not being changed out?
It is being changed out.
So that would include it's changed out in site 3, but below that, it's really hard. I'm sorry, I'm not looking at the map it's not up right now, that was used for the PowerPoint and the map that is in the enclosures for the May letter, and sent us, I guess, June. But sorry, it only has the site 5, 3, and 2 in it. And so I'm not certain. I think that's part of site 4 where there's an overlap between 5 and 4. But basically my property, which is one of the main lines feeding water to Olehua, the homestead area, at least part of it, maybe not now that it diverts, up around the north side and further west. But I know a lot of the homesteads are fed by that. So I'm wondering if that one is being changed because it hasn't been changed out.
Okay, we'll have to check with our team as well as all of the construction plans which Goodfellow Brothers are using. And so I'll do a follow-up on that and to verify in that particular area,
okay,
as well as all areas on the AC pipe replacement.
Okay, please, because I had raised that at the prior consultation when Chairman Isla came up, and they're gonna look into that. So that would be excellent if we could find out about that. And I'll just add too that I did discuss this with Goodfellow Brothers about a year ago or something, and they had confirmed to me that it wasn't changed, and they didn't know. They didn't think their current plan did not have that it was going to be changed. So that's as far as what was relayed to me from Goodfellow Brothers. So maybe
Okay,
that'll
we'll
help.
verify and check the plans.
Okay, thank you.
And then
follow up. So that will be sent to us or me, or and how will I receive that, or we will receive that information?
We'll do a formal response and put it in the minutes of this meeting.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay, Stuart, I get one comment. Okay, going back to Cammy Purdy's one about Uncle Joe. You know, he lives up the top of Kalamaula Mauka, and he's been taking data of the water, the pressure, you know, like measuring everything. And after the water system's supposed to go in the new one, so that you can kind of compare from when was before construction and when construction started on the water lines. He took his information to Hawaiian Homes. I mean, you know, the district, Molokai district office. Gene Ross didn't want to even look at him or even see what kind of information he had to share. So I'm kind of saying, maybe you can contact Uncle Joe Souza and see his notes and his data, everything he took. This is real smart man, and he's like over 80 already. And he just wanted somebody to see what he did, what he would measure, what he did, how the pressure was, when he moved in. I don't know if he moved in like 2002 or something like that. Maybe his notes going to be kind of like, you know, you guys can see them and see how it is.
We'll follow up. I'll call the Molokai district office. I don't know if you know, Joe and left anything there or.
No, he came to my office and he said, oh, Gene didn't want to hear about what I did. I said, oh, Uncle, all these years you've been, you know, taking data and everything, you know, take it to Honolulu or something. But I think he gave up because he felt like, yeah, but
tell him no give up.
He's
and
a good
if you
resource.
can help, if you can help facilitate getting that information, then definitely we will.
Because I know like all his work go to waste. Yeah. It was important to him. Yeah. Thank you.
It is important to us too that the system works.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Okay. Mahalo, Gayla. So I just wanted to finish Malia's thought about, I just wanted to read her comments. E kala mai ia'u to be jumping from pipeline to Na'iwa grounds, cultural concerns, please complete Na'iwa first. And then Kilia has a couple questions. When draining the water from the tanks, are you storing that water? What happens to the water? What happens with the drained water? That's a large amount to waste, even if it can be used to water plants.
Okay, thank you for that. I Kalamai, if we weren't clear, we're not just draining the water into the gulch. So what happens is the water is actually going through the pipelines and servicing the homestead. So it takes a couple of weeks actually to bring the 3.5 million gallons down to the point where we can begin to work in the tank. At that point, then the valves are switched so that the second 3.5 million gallon tank is continued to be filled, and that serves the Olehua homestead. Okay, so we have the pumps pumping only into one tank, and so after the work on the first 3.5 million gallon tank is completed, we will fill that tank, and then when the first tank is filled, then we'll start switch the valves so that the second tank is used to service the homestead.
Got it. That makes
So
sense.
yeah, so nothing is actually wasted. So calamai, if it wasn't explained that way. So yeah, we definitely, we don't want to waste anything.
Right, right. No, and that's why we have this kind meeting. So mahalo for the clarification.
Gigi.
Okay. It's the same question from Trisha. So I'll just read her question, but I believe Stuart already answered the question. What are you guys doing with the water you guys drain from the tanks? So mahalo, Stuart, for that clarification. Sybil has a suggestion. Within the notices, you must include all or most of all potential effects, such as water pressure, how long it will take, and what do we need to expect from this during this time. So I think, yeah, that is good information to include in the notices. And then she has a question. Is that the current process when any archaeological find occurs? I'll pass that to Mara.
Yeah, that question was while we were talking about the process that we go through, which is bringing artifacts over to Oahu to our laboratory. But we look forward to continuing that conversation together with DHHL and the community, as Shifty recommended further down in the chat as well, about the refining that process so that we can figure out a way to keep artifacts on Molokai.
Gigi, hi, Pat.
Hi.
Just wanted to read Kilia's comment. I support that all Molokai artifacts stay on Molokai, so we will acknowledge that comment. Sybil has a question. Where does it say how we can include our comments so that they are valid? Sorry, I paraphrased that one a little bit. So I guess, and correct me if I misinterpret your question, Sybil. I guess your question is how can folks make sure that the comments that they share are valid and incorporated into the record of this consultation process? Is that correct? Did I interpret your question correctly?
Yes, because Section 106 process has more of a federal regulations with specific guidelines to those beneficiaries who are directly affected and those that are indirectly affected and may cause impact, adversely impacted or not, that comments would be specific. So that's what I was addressing, sorry.
Oh, no, thanks for clarifying. Mara, did you want to answer that one?
So I think, in terms of Section 106, of course, it's a federal regulatory framework. And there's, there are stipulations about recognized consulting parties versus project stakeholders. And so what we wanted to do with this meeting and with all of our communications is involve everybody, whether or not they responded within the 30-day comment period as stipulated by Section 106, because we recognize that everybody is busy and has other things in their lives. And so, I think all of your comments are valid, and all of, the meeting is being recorded. We're also taking down minutes, which we will include in our administrative record under Section 106. But I think that, come to us if you have any questions. We will be sending out a meeting summary as well as the PowerPoint following tonight's meeting. And that's another opportunity to step away and think about the project and think about any additional questions that you have.
Mahalo, Mara. A comment from Iolani. The landowner is the owner of the artifact and should consult with the State Historic Preservation Division on the best method to malama. So thank you for that comment. We will make sure to follow that direction. And then I guess Kilia just wanted to clarify regarding potentially partnering with Pulama Lima who is on island. Yolani has another comment. Shipti recommends that DHL to consult with the community on how to malama the artifact finds. Okay. Yep, we will work that into our process too. Question from Malia. Mara, do you know of any past effort to have Naiva recognized as a registered historic site?
So there are sites in Naiva that have been assigned state inventory of historic places site numbers. These were surveyed back in 1970 and reported on in 1971. In terms of designation as a historic district, for example, or a traditional cultural property, to my knowledge, no nomination has been made for the overall area. So there are individual sites that were inventoried back in the very early 70s, but there hasn't been an effort, to my knowledge, to register it as a historic district, for example.
Okay. Can I add to the question? So I know there are Piao and some others that are located. I'm not sure if they're in the site or adjoining the site, very close to. So I'm wondering about that, if there was anything done since the 70s, early 70s. And yeah, and what are your feelings about Naiva being designated as such?
So there are two sites that are near the APE in Site 3. They were both documented as having been destroyed previously when they were surveyed and assigned site numbers back in 1971. And so, you know, again, we didn't identify any physical remains of those sites during this project, but I would recommend that you know, this area be identified as probably as a cultural landscape would be the appropriate designation, given the knowledge about the activities in this area. Of course, that is a lot of work, but we'd be happy to help in whatever way that we can.
Okay. Could you clarify the difference between property, landscape, or I can look it up, but
no, that's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. I can look at that or discuss it with you more later on.
Yeah. That sounds great. That sounds great.
I think it would be good to look at some of the cultural knowledge and documentation that we have available that may not have gone into that mapping or that was done 50 years ago, but we do have people enough that have identified and talk about the various sites. Thank you.
Sounds great.
Thanks, Malia. Thanks, Mara. Cora asks the question, are there two water pumps with two main valves in upper and lower Kalamaula Mauka?
There are two deep wells and also two booster pumps up in Site 1. And basically those serve the system. So there's some improvements being made to the booster pumps that will feed the upper tanks in Olehua and the tank that will then feed Kalamaula. So we can also provide copies of the plans, for that area. So basically, we want to provide redundancy if one well should go down, and also redundancy for the booster pumps.
Thanks, Stuart. From the Olehua Homestead Association, what is the status of prioritizing new water meters to homesteaders who have been waiting for decades for access to water? I guess I will answer that question. So we're currently in the process of finalizing the internal procedure to allocate the new meters. a water meter, represents a certain allocation of water. And as you know, water is a precious resource. So we just want to make sure that our internal procedures are fair in allocating water to our beneficiaries. So we should hopefully be done with finalizing our internal procedures for allocating water, hopefully within the next 4 to 6 weeks. But we understand that it's a priority and that it's important and that people have been waiting a long time for those meters. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
Will we be able to review that before it's finalized?
The basic procedures have been approved by the commission. So that was approved, I believe, in September this month. So that's on the DHHL website on what the priorities are for allocating water. The specific things that we're trying to finalize right now are like the intake forms and kind of the more bureaucratic pieces, like the intake forms that a beneficiary would have to fill out, and then like where does the form get routed to for review. So those Manini like bureaucratic functions is what we're discussing right now. But the major policy and procedures that was approved by the commission in September. So if you go to the commission website.
Can you send us a link?
Sure.
Thank you.
No problem.
I did see a list that was provided by the DHHL consultant, Jonathan, that he had provided in a PowerPoint at the Mokupuni meeting. And it listed, but it wasn't like it wasn't numbered. His priorities 1 through whatever. It was like it was A through H. So just since I haven't seen the website, is the website 1, 2, 3, and that is the priorities?
It should be very similar to what Jonathan presented at the Mokupuni council meeting. So I will try to get through the comments, and then I will find the website link to post into the chat.
And question is, just to let you know, there's been a list that's been ongoing, like people said, for decades. So hopefully that would be converted, into the process of not just making a new list, right? And then, so it should have the dates when people applied, but the issue with that one is that people who first inquired weren't always provided the papers to fill it out. So that is something. And then it would be great is there, just jumping ahead to a question basically that's related, is there a plan to allow beneficiaries to have because I don't even, honestly, some of the A through H aren't really clear to me and doesn't mesh with my understanding, at least through the Olehua Homestead Association, of what our priorities would be for assigning meters.
Sorry, can you repeat the question? It was
to you guys and have some input, or is it just, is it going to be this is how we assign them, as opposed to having our input? Because the list that I saw, it's not what we expected in that little bit that we provided, as in our conditions for this project, right? And so it's important that we get water access. It's really important. And the list wasn't what I understand from the discussions of the Water Committee and Association, what we ask for or what we want. So, and then there are other questions about discretion you know, that it may not necessarily be followed, even though it's so. It'd be great if we can have a consultation on that.
On the, before we roll out the, before we start to allocate meters, you want another consultation?
Yeah, to talk about how it's going to be done before a procedure is finalized. It would have been great if it was already done, but at this point, if it's not finalized and voted on, because a lot of us asked for it and have been asking for it, but asked for it recently in writing, and then
so I guess to clarify, the procedures are done. The ones that were adopted by the commission. What we're finalizing right now is just the internal process of how we're gonna intake the request going on into the future. Like the form that people would have to fill out. And then the like just where the form would get routed internally.
Okay, so could we please have a consultation to talk about the procedure that has been implemented as far as how the meters are planned to be assigned?
I think once we finalize the internal process, we can definitely have informational opportunities to explain to folks how the process and procedures will work.
And am I understanding, Andrew, that you're saying we aren't going to have the consultation prior to the decisions being made? The community.
What I'm saying is the commission approved the priority on how water would get allocated based on the request that was taken in September. What we're doing right now is doing the internal forms, the internal, like how we route internally the requests.
Right. So where should I send the request for a consultation on this?
I guess what specifically would you want to consult on?
Determine.
Like, I mean, because we're almost POW and we want to start to allocate the meters, especially to those that made previous requests for water.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your last. Your question.
We're almost POW with the internal process, and we want to start to provide meters to those that have made requests to the department previously. So what exactly are you wanting to opine on?
Two things I would like us to have, since you said that the priority list has already been determined and accepted without, the input of priorities as far as what the beneficiaries in olehua have determined. Okay, I can understand that. I have questions as to the list that I saw, and I will also look at the one that's listed on the website. But from what I know, there's a lot of questions, and it wasn't clear what the priority list was not clear on how it was going to be allotted. Okay, so that's one thing I'd like on the consultation. The other thing would be optimal is if the homesteaders could have input as to the list and how you guys are going to decide, how DHHL is going to decide for the beneficiaries, how the request list for that process will be determined. So that would be optimal if we could have it before that's finalized, and an explanation of where the commission is now with their determination of how they're going to do this and get us access. And other people access, from what I see, businesses and such were also in that list.
So the list of the priorities that has been finalized, that has been approved by the commission.
Right. I'm sorry, I'm using too many words. Basically, two things: talk about and explain to us what your list is, what DHHL's list is, so we can talk about it and understand it, so that we're all clear on how the meters are going to be allotted and when. Okay, and then the second part is, please let us talk to you guys and have input prior to determining how the list is going to be made or allocated. Meters are going to be allocated, because we've had an existing list for decades. So those are the two things.
So I guess there's confusion on the terminology list. Where what I mean is the commission approved the types of uses that would be priority for receiving water meters.
Got it. I think we should write it down and it'll be clearer. Yeah. And then we can have the communication from there. I think that's probably best right now.
Hi, Andrew. This is Charlie.
Hi.
Hey, let's just move on because this was brought up in our association meeting and it was discussed on how the procedures was going to be done on awarding the meters. So it's only going in circles. I don't think she was there at our meeting when Chair Ayla and Jonathan proposed the procedures of how we're going to do the awarding of the meters. So we value her opinions, but I think this is tabled already and we should go on. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you for that.
What's the meeting? I'm sorry if I did miss it. When was the meeting held?
The meeting were held when Chair Ayla and Jonathan and Cedric them was all up here in our homestead meeting. You were there at that meeting too.
Was in attendance at that meeting. And
was that
made? We did not talk about what the list was, or
yes,
it was
we did. Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
Okay, let's.
And he told us the priorities was.
Let's get that in mind.
And just for everyone's clarification, I did drop the link into the chat where for the commission website, it's in the September meeting. It's item G1, so that is where you folks can go to see the water allocation policy and procedure. So we're just let you know we're almost PAL with working it out internally, and we hope to start to be able to provide water meters to those that have requested water meters previously. Yes, moving down, Sybil just wanted to echo that Uncle Joe has lots of ike. He has more decades worth that we need to be considered. So we will do that. Another question from Leah, question for the department steward or Commissioner Helm. What has been determined with conditions set forth by HHA?
We addressed that already.
Okay.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions there that, that was follow up to our previous conversation. At the time it was pertinent and now we've moved past it. Thank you.
Okay. And then Sybil comments, we want to change that process. I think that was with regards to examining the resources that are found on site and keeping them on island. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I guess this is related to the past conversation we just had. It was shared that DHHO priority procedure for getting water access to existing homesteaders was being considered by the commission. Whereas this process, will current beneficiaries have opportunity to provide our input? DHHO water consultant provided PowerPoint. I have questions on priority list. So just to clarify, commission approved the process and we are we're almost PAL with making sure that all the bureaucratic stuff like the form and the internal process of where things get routed are finalized. So we hope to be able to start to issue water meters in the very near future. Kilia writes, Ka'umu, Kalua, Ua, the rain hail still exists in the Iva, whether in the work area. I don't think so, but Naiva as a whole should be recognized as a historic property. So I think, yeah, we can note that. Yeah, Mara.
Yeah, the rain hail is Malka of the project area. It's outside of the APE. But yes, very significant site.
And then her second comment, there's also Lena believed to be a place where spirits sleep. and I believe even a Coliseum-like area in Naiva.
But I have a question with that, Mara, since Iolani is here from SHPE, and that is kind of what me and Kilia have been trying to discuss, is either having it a cultural landscape or a historic district, just as long as we're identifying that, because it covers more than one parcel. But if DHHL, as we are right now in that Section 106 process, we want it clearly documented so that it's identified as such. So I don't know if this is more for an Iolani question, because this is what we want to make known, and we want it recorded. And even though it's not on your parcel, it's in the neighboring parcels, we want to make sure that either in a Section 106 process is identified, or that as long as it's get documented, knowing that we know that there's makahiki grounds all over that place. We know that it's covering more than one parcel, whether it be a portion on DHHL or not on DHHL, you're still in that vicinity. So we want to make that known. And I know earlier you said that you are up for that discussion, whether it's called a cultural landscape or whether it's a historic district or a historic landmark, but we want to make that area known. So that is what we want. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that comment.
Yeah, please add really very quickly that I know there are other sites that have been documented by Molokai Kupuna in the past years. Some have passed on, but the writings remain talking about additional significant sites there, closely in close proximity to the heiau that we're talking about, and hula mounds, and it's a common name and things like that. So I think that would be good if those weren't discovered during the earlier process of the cultural inventory, to review those as well as part of this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Cora made a comment, I support this water project. Iolani, thank you for your suggestion. We will consult with SHPE, with the State Historic Preservation Division regarding this project, as well as all of our other projects early in the process. And then Alkele writes, can you please tell us if you guys have researched when the water was rerouted at the top to Molokai Ranch? And if not, what needs to be done in order to get the answer to this question and hold the owners of Molokai Ranch financially liable to reroute the water back and be held responsible financially to ensure that the beneficiary is suffering as a result of the water being rerouted? I don't know within the scope of this Section 106 that we can do that, but it's something that I think we can note internally, that, and maybe try to follow up on that question outside of this process. I think we would have to do some research on historic research on when the ranch started to divert water, and would have to probably consult with the Commission on Water Resource Management and their records to see when the ranch initiated diversion. So it's definitely something we're always looking for, ways to get water to Hawaiian homeland. So I think this is potentially another opportunity to look at how we can get more water to Hawaiian homelands for our beneficiaries. Question from Commissioner Helm. What are the current conditions for the booster pumps for Olehua and Kalama'ula? Are they new or old? Is there enough power to increase the water pressure? What is your projection for this issue regarding the water pressure for Kalama'ula Mauka will be addressed and completed? What was the findings for the amount of leakage from the old water lines that was replaced? Stuart?
Okay, good questions, Commissioner. I think we'll need to just do a comprehensive review on this. You know, there are improvements being made to of the wells and the pumps, but basically the pumps, you know, get the water into the tanks, and the tanks will gravity feed. So the booster pumps are not actually increasing pressure in the lines itself. It pumps the water up to the million-gallon tank, and then from there it gravity feeds down into the system. So the pressure breaks at the point where it hits the tanks, and then from the tanks, then it adds additional pressure. So we can surely take a look at that. And you know, the system is still not completed. As Mara said, we're about maybe 60 to 65% completed. There's still the new steel tank that needs to be constructed that feeds Kalama'ula. There's also that existing tank in Kalama'ula that does break the pressure too. So the pressure really comes from that tank. So we'll have to see if there's need to boost it from there, or if there are impediments within the system that cause Kalama'ula to have low pressure. So good questions. We'll take a look at that and try to see where the solution is. Because I understand, I know that there's been a lot of discussion on actually years and years of low pressure.
Well, Lower Kalama'ula, we don't have that problem, okay? You know, I'm also a beneficiary, so, you know, I'm impacted in one way or the other, besides being the commissioner for Molokai. But, you know, it would be a good idea to inform those that are impacted as soon as you identify the reason for the lack of water pressure, and let those beneficiaries that are experiencing this problem, as soon as you find out the reason why the pressure is and how long it's been like that. So I just want to make sure that, you know, they will understand, and then once you find out that will be fixed, or, you know, that will be addressed, then, you know, hopefully, because the subdivision there was built in the 90s, you know, and, you know, and I understand that the pump was pumping the water upward from Kamehameha Highway. Is that correct? Is that was in the past, right? Stuart?
I'm not really sure, and rather than guessing, Commissioner, let me go find out.
I was informed that at one time down below where the entrance is, where to go up to Kalama'ula Mauka, they were boosting the water up towards and I'm not sure if that is all, that is history now. So I just, you know, I mean, you know, we've put in a lot of investment in this project, you know, and you mentioned that there's 3 or 4 phases, and it's worth $32 million. And hopefully these concerns can be addressed as soon as possible, especially like Uncle Joe, you know, Uncle Joe. You know, I kind of hope that, I kind of wish that he provided me those documents that Kayla was talking about. Then I would have had forwarded to you, Stuart. But, you know, I never, you know, that's fine. But
yeah, we'll have to work with the Molokai District Office on that, and you know, to see if that's an operational issue or if it's more than that. So yes,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to look into that and to work with Molokai District Office and the water crew over there.
So the 3.5 million gallon tanks that are being restored. So you said there's one that's empty, currently empty, right?
Yes.
And then how long will that take to get that restored? And then how long will, how long for each tank will be restored? How long will it take?
I don't have that answer now. I know that the contractor is working on it. You know, this is, I'm not sure when anyone went into that tank the last time, but these are quite old, and we're finding let's say different anomalies in there. So we've got to address those things with you know, the guts of the tank.
My understanding, because the system is 40 years plus old, correct? Maybe more than that. And, you're going to experience problems along the way. That I understand. But, I just hope that, because we've invested so much in this project, that things will be, the water system will improve. And also we can begin the process of issuing water meters to those that are on the waiting list for a long time. Yeah, so I think that's something that I've had people approach me, and I've tried to contact the proper people to get answers, which they've provided, but I understand the frustrations that the beneficiaries are going through, but I've continued to engage with the department. I mean, not so much micromanage, but engage, meaning to get answers. Yeah, so that these beneficiaries, at least they know there's someone communicating with them. And I think that's really important. Like I say, I'm not only a commissioner, I'm also a beneficiary. So, just because our water system, Lower Kalamula, provides enough water pressure, but I'm still concerned about the Kalamula upper. Okay, I think, you build a new home and you can't get water pressure. It's very discouraging, So we really need to do the best we can to address that right as soon as possible, because it's kind of unfair for them to especially those that's been on that subdivision for a long time, and like Gayla was saying, that the water pressure is worse now than before they started. The pressure was stronger before they started the improvement. So, something's not right here. So I just hope we can address this as soon as possible. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. And I'm ready to leave because I have to go to another meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And then I guess along the same lines, Alkele writes, when is the approximate date that meters will be issued? Near future does not give specific time frame, same as we are given specific dates in order to respond by. It's only reasonable to ask the specific time frame, please. I apologize for my vague answer about near future, but we are trying to do it as quickly as possible. I do know that this is one of the priorities that Chair Ayla wants to complete before he leaves office in December. So that's the best answer I can give you right now, is that we are trying to make it happen as soon as possible. And I apologize for being vague, but it's something that Chair wants to be able to do before he leaves. his position. So hopefully within the next, hopefully before the new year. Okay, another question from Olehua Homestead. Is there any plans for renewable energy options to run the pumps and save us money? I believe that was one of the points in the slide deck, Stuart. That
right. So there is opportunities. It's right now our focus is on completing the water line improvements, completing the base yard, and then a lot of the, I guess, the funds that we had were redirected to additional improvements. So we'll have to look at a different methodology on the renewable energy for that site, because the first proposal was to take DHHL totally off of HICO, and that was not going to work. So we do have to look at another alternative for that.
Okay, thanks. Kelia just wanted to mahalo Commissioner Helm. Malia really wants to make a comment for the record. I was notified yesterday by Mara that a recent site survey, including my property by Site 3, showed different boundaries for Hawaiian homeland than in statewide GS record. A request is new, and all previous surveys included in process at minimum from 2007. So Mara, you can include that information as part of this record. Okay.
Yeah, and I believe Stuart will be following up with you on that, Malia.
Yep, will do.
Sybil Mahalo's Commissioner Helm. From Charles, he also wants to mahalo Commissioner Helm. And so does the whole Olehua Homestead Association. Malia has a question. What is the process for notifying property lessees and private landowners when their land is involved in surveys and connection to the project? I guess, Stuart, typically what is the standard process when LDD has a project and notifies the community about potential impact?
Yeah, so if we, it's determined that other property other than the common areas or roadways are impacted, then there is a notification process. And I can't say specifically in this project being, it was started, like Mara says, about 15 years ago. And so my understanding of the system now is that the improvements do not affect, well, some of the Site 3 improvements were affecting a private landowner. So we had contacted the landowner. There was an existing easement, but there were some variations in the easement. So we had a process of formal notification and discussions with those landowners. But other than that, my understanding is that the improvements, as it is shown on the construction plans, do not impact private land. And if it was, they had been notified. So it is a notification process. And I know that there may be some disagreement as far as where these improvements are made, but basically I think what we'll do is we will provide that information to the affected parties.
Am I right in hearing that there was a report made and that would be sent to those landowners who are affected?
It says, yeah, it would be the various survey maps that were prepared and basically verified in the field.
And then that gets sent to the lessees whose DMKs are involved.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'm just curious. So when was this determined, or this resurveyed, and the results determined to differ from the state wide CIS?
It's a recent recently.
Stuart, the survey was completed in September.
It was I think earlier this month, and then there was also needing to have the various the state plat map verified with the lease description, the infield survey, etc., and then just checking all of the coordinates to verify the location of the improvements as it relates to lots and roadways.
So could you just tell me if you recall if there was a more recent survey conducted? The one that I had been provided was from the 80s that this project was to have been planned from.
I can't say I know what that map is or was, and so we'll be getting back to you shortly with that survey information.
Okay, to clarify, it was a survey that was done in the 80s is what I had been told was what the sites that were located on my property were based off of when G70 developed them. So it seems to me there likely would have been one between the 80s and now after the project has already come this far. And then
we can check on that.
Okay, yeah, let's get that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I believe I got to the end of all the substantive comments in the chat. And we are at 7:40. So I guess Mara, can you just kind of go over the next steps in the Section 106 process?
Sure. So as I mentioned, we'll be sending out the PowerPoint that was shared this evening, as well as a summary of the meeting. And we'll send that out via email to all consulting parties, project stakeholders. And if there's anybody who you can think of who we haven't reached out to yet, we'd be happy to reach out to them as well if they have any thoughts to share. And then we will ask that you get back to us with any additional thoughts on the areas of expansion, which of course is the reason for the Section 106 process being reopened. And we will keep everybody informed as the project continues and look forward to continuing to communicate with all of you. So mahalo again.
One question is following up as far as receiving the materials from the meeting. Could we get a link or something related to, or is this a posted meeting recording?
I think in addition to getting it emailed, we will post meeting notes on the department website as well as the meeting video.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you.
Any other last questions, comments? Well, if not, we want to thank all of you folks for taking time out of your busy schedules to spend with us tonight. Yeah, we will keep you informed about when the notes are posted. Also keep you informed about the water meters, and try to get you some of the answers that we were unable to get you tonight. Hopefully most of the answers will be in the notes. So, and if not, we will, you know where to reach us in case you have questions. Okay, so thanks everyone. Please have a good evening.
Mahalo nui.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Mahalo nui.
Cool. Thank you.